first year, I really struggled to say no because I was finding my feed of who I wanted to help. If you try to be everything to everyone, then you're nothing to no one.
Hi everyone, on today's episode, I'm speaking to Emma Reeves, who's the director and founder of Excelerate Marketing.
It's never too early to actually set your own company values and your own vision and mission, create some type of value or framework just to align yourself with the customers you're going to work with. I think it's a good place to start. Marketing is really about trying to solve a problem and how to connect in. It's like, okay, well, this is our audience. This is what we offer. How do we find more people? What are you trying to market? What problem are you trying to solve? Who's the best person to solve? You know roughly who your audience is, but where they are is the challenge of being able to try and market to them with the right message at the right time. The expectation around having a company, what that looks like, it's the easiest thing. But then it's what you make of it and how you build it, obviously, which is the hardest part of it all.
Hey Emma, thanks for joining me on my podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Excellent. Before we get into it all, I'd love you to introduce yourself and your business.
Yeah, sure. So my name's Emma, owner and director of Excelerate Marketing. We're a digital marketing agency founded almost 5 years ago now. So COVID was a great time to actually quit your job and start your business.
Yep.
We've evolved to be offering digital marketing services to businesses to really help grow their business, generate more referrals, generate more leads. We do so through really efficient and effective marketing strategies. So that's
Excellent.
us in a nutshell.
Excellent. So, before we get into the business itself and your journey to creating your little baby, Excelerate Marketing, I'd love you to share a little bit about, what were you doing before?
So I'd worked in marketing for probably about 7 or 8 years. And I first started out working really in the financial services space at Rate City, which is an online comparison website. So there I had exposure working with all different types of banks and lending institutions. And basically we were looking after their account and driving leads through a comparison website. So affiliate marketing is the name of the game. And, working with these clients, we got really, quite decent exposure to really kind of big brand strategies. Working with Greater Union at the time when they moved to Greater Bank. We worked with UBank at the time they launched into the market. And so, building those relationships there. And often we also worked with other, really large scale international advertising agencies like PhD and Rakuten and, all the different kind of.
A lot of the big brands.
A lot of those, big advertising agencies who would be managing the client spend on their behalf. And from there, I moved to On Deck, working in business finance.
Yes, On Deck.
So moved there and I was managing the MYB partnership there for about 12 months, which was everything in terms of in-product advertising, display advertising, lots of conferences as well. So they had the big Insight conferences every year. And, that was something that we had to really position a product in alignment with another brand and a business and be really strategic with how do you rename and relabel something to be able to sell in and really talk about the value of this loan product to MYB customers.
That would have been pretty hard.
It was challenging in in the sense of you've actually got a captive audience. So in a lot of cases with businesses and service-based marketing in particular, roughly who your audience is, but where they are is the challenge of being able to try and market to them with the right message at the right time. Whereas MYB customers, we had the list. The list is in front of us. We have a captive audience, but how do you cut through even the noise of all the comms that you're getting from MYB and to talk to the real value of what this loan product would offer for small business? So it was quite unique in a way of we know who these people are. We know what their businesses are. We know what their turnover is. We know, how many staff they have. We know a lot about their business, so much so that we could then offer them actually different pricing and different offers because of the information we had about those customers.
Right, makes sense.
Yeah. So
that's good. I wanted to ask, did you always wanted to do marketing?
Yeah, I studied marketing university and I worked with a couple of different brands doing, some promotional work when I was at uni and working cafes and restaurants, to save up some cash to go to Europe and all the things that, 18, 19-year-olds do. And I always wanted to have my own business. And I think, I put a lot of pressure on myself around what that needed to look like. And I think there's sometimes like a big expectation of like running a company. And, I just kind of put it on the back burner. I was like, until I really know what I'm going to do, I know I want to have my own business. I just don't know
what it is,
what that looks like. Yeah.
No, that makes sense. Most 18-year-olds, including myself at the time, long time ago now, you get thrusted into choosing a particular degree which might set the tone for the rest of your life. Like, how did you know that marketing was the thing that you wanted to do? Like, what drew you towards marketing?
I think I've always been a creative, and I've always enjoyed like arts and craft at school, and I like building things, and I like also talking to people. I'm a real social networker, and I get re-energized spending my time around great people and great energy. And so marketing is, it's a lot of, especially in what we do with, our clients and helping them with events and helping them, with their online personal brand as well. We're around people and we're connecting people with people. And especially again with service-based businesses, you're connecting with the owner of that business and you want to know who exactly it is that you're going to be working with, that you trust that person, you like that person, and that you're committed into working with them. And so, for me, this kind of worked quite naturally. I love also problem solving. And I think marketing is really about, trying to solve a problem and how to connect in. It's like, okay, well, this is our audience. This is what we offer. How do we find more people? And the other component I would say is storytelling. So, what is the story and the journey of that business? And, we create content, we create maybe a blog article or a video based on what the message is that we want to convey. So what's the story we want to tell about this 10-year anniversary of this business, or, a new promotion they've had, or an award that they've had. So we as marketers have to be creative in the storytelling, and we have to be, passionate about that particular business. So it kind of ticks a few boxes.
Oh, that's awesome. Look, I'm an accountant, so I'm not a good storyteller at all.
Well, what attracted you to accounting then? What do you think?
Like yourself, I always wanted, like in high school, I thought to myself, in the future, I'm going to run a business. I just don't know what it is, but I'm going to do it. But what led me to actually get into accounting wasn't my mum, who would say, you got to be a doctor, a lawyer, or an accountant, right? But it was more so wanting to make money quickly. And I thought, hey, accounting's a good career path where I can actually make good money. I didn't love it, but I'll tell you the truth. I wanted to be a lawyer, but I didn't make it. I didn't get a high enough UAI, unfortunately. So then the next best thing was accounting. Yeah. So I kind of fell into it. I enjoy doing it. I don't love it, but I think it's gotten me to where I am now, which has been amazing. But that's why I do accounting. I'd love to do something else now that I've built a stable business. I'd love to venture into something else. But that's a story for another time, I guess. Let's go back to you. So you've worked, you decided that you wanted to do marketing at an early age.
Yep.
You got into it.
Yep.
You worked in the corporate life, 9 to 5. At what point did you say,
you know, 8 till 6.
8 to 6.
I mean, it wasn't as bad as some marketing agencies.
9 to 5.
Yeah,
right?
You hear some horror stories.
Yeah.
And I think, marketing, your role tends to look a bit unconventional. Like when I started on deck, I think it was my second week or third week. It was my birthday, and I was on a flight up to Brisbane at a conference for 3 days. And, that's the way that we've also kind of created our company now is, we're sitting and doing a podcast today and tomorrow I'm at a sales conference for the next 2 days. And then, every day looks different, and I quite like that variety. Whereas if you're someone that wants a regimented structure and a 9 to 5, then marketing and, Accelerate Marketing is probably not the company for them.
Yeah.
So it's for people who like that level of variety and that challenge and that diversity in their day. So we definitely...
So that was probably a big reason as to why you decided to get rid of or make that leap from employee to business owner?
Yeah, at the time I was working for another agency and COVID hit, and that agency really suffered with some of the clients having to pull back their spend. And so it was an opportunity for me. I'm like, I'm still working a full-time job and I'm not getting paid for a full-time job. I was moved to, JobKeeper at that stage. And the opportunity was, well, I could, whether it's JobKeeper or Job Seeker, I could get paid the same, but actually spend time doing and building something I'm going to really enjoy and feel passionate about.
Yeah.
And that was the biggest thing of I lost the love of where I was working and the clients I was working on. And so I wanted more value. I wanted, to be more connected into, what I was doing. And then I started actually just having a few conversations with people, and they said this advice is really helpful. Like this outsourced CMO executive level advice to directors. Yeah, we really value this. You should consult full time. And that's where I started kind of toying around with the idea of being an external marketing consultant. And then once I kind of put that to practice, then people wanted us to be their agency. Write a strategy, but then can you now deliver it? And that's how Accelerate Marketing was born.
Oh, wow. Interesting. Yeah. So, I mean, before we get into more of Accelerate Marketing, was there a time where you thought maybe I would start a different type of business? Or did you go, no, marketing's for me, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to leverage my skill set and do it?
To be honest, one of my first business ideas, well, actually my very first business, I created a newsletter when I was 8 about cats. I don't own a cat. I've never owned a cat, but my best friend at the time had cats. And we created content about cats, and we printed it out and put it in a folder, and we distributed it around her neighborhood. So we started newsletters at a really young age of 8.
Oh, wow.
And then I made jewelry for a little bit. I dabbled in like makeup sales and, promotional work, working with different brands. And then, before starting Accelerate, I think, just kind of toying with the idea of, what are my skill sets? What am I really good at doing? I'm really good at problem solving. I'm really good at being around people, connecting with people. Having studied marketing university, one of my favorite courses was the one where it was a real life business scenario. I hated economics, really don't enjoy economics. Maths was okay, at school, but something around, economics was not so great. But the creative subjects and even the management, so that, level of organization and structure. And that's what I found that a lot of businesses miss with their marketing is they don't have a structure, they don't have a plan. And so, the creative side compared with the planning, that's where, we really come at a unique angle in the market, I think, the way we operate our business, because that's just how I personally like to operate.
Yeah, it makes sense. So you really at a young age were really had that entrepreneurial mindset.
Yeah.
You really wanted to get into business. So that's really good that you have actually done that now.
Yeah, thank you.
And achieved your childhood dreams.
Yes.
Right? No, that's awesome. So out of COVID, or because of COVID, Accelerate Marketing was born. Can you tell the audience a little bit about the challenges you faced in that first year in business?
Well, I think unique because it was COVID at the time. And I know we talked about this briefly, just, the expectation around having a company and what that looks like. It's the easiest thing to just go and register a business. It was done within a day. Yeah. I was like, I'm a director of a company. Like that really took much less time than I thought it was going to. Yeah. But then it's what you make of it and how you build it, obviously, which is the hardest part of it all. In that first year, I think it's probably a challenge that happens in your first year, but happens in your 4th and 5th year as well, is what are you trying to market? What problem are you trying to solve? Who's the best person to solve? And I think the first year I really struggled to say no because I was finding my feet of who I wanted to help. So I did work with a startup, which was okay, but they were in medical profession, and then I'm trying to work with finance. And so we wanted to be the marketing agency for accounting professionals and finance professionals. But then I'd, sidestep and be like, oh, but maybe I could help this person because they're also in need. And it just meant that you're changing hats so frequently between the two different sectors, which took a lot more capacity. At the time, I'm a young green entrepreneur, so that's fine, but that wears you down. If you try to be everything to everyone, then you're nothing to no one. So, trying to learn about, in marketing, there's such a broad reach of all the different services. Do you do SEO? Do you do website? Do you do creative? Do you do design?
So many, yep.
So trying to find what our niche is, how we can best serve our customers, and then who are those customers? And I think that's a challenge that you constantly have as then, business evolves, and as you take on different projects. Your team also says what type of clients they like working with, what type of projects, and which ones they don't. So for us, it's very much established businesses, maybe, 3, 4, 5 years in business, or it could be 10 or 20 years. But the common denominator is they're missing that strategy and structure in the business with their marketing, and they need help and the guidance of, kind of stripping it back to basics a little bit around who they're trying to target, and then building out that plan and then going full execution mode to deliver.
Yeah, that's interesting. So the first year for yourself was really about or the challenges you faced is you were really saying yes to everything, or you couldn't say no to anyone.
Yeah.
And I find that that's probably true to a lot of business owners starting out. You kind of have to say yes to, everything just because, I need to feed myself.
Yeah.
Right. But I guess if you were to do things differently, how do you think anyone else going through that first year phase of saying yes to everyone? Because, as you said, it can be detrimental to the growth of your business. Like you, by my second and third year, I thought, hey, I've got a niche. It's not tax work. It's actually helping businesses by being a business advisor or providing business services.
Yep.
That was my niche. And then, I put marketing strategies around getting those type of clients. And now it's worked. That's all the work that I'm getting now. But what would you say is, what advice would you give to someone in their first year to, I guess, try and prevent that from happening, where they are saying yes to everyone and not really thinking about the long-term niche of their business?
I think the first piece of advice I would give is that it's never too early to actually set your own company values and your own vision and mission. And the biggest thing is, making sure that your customers are both in alignment with that perfect prospect or that, ideal customer type. But another big side of it is making sure that that company and business is aligned to your company values. And I think that's something that you don't always cross-check against. It's like, oh, this business, 3 years in business, 3 mil turnover, 4 staff, growing offices, great. But what's underneath that business? What is their goals in a long term? So what is their vision, and what are the values that kind of drive that business? If you're all about innovation and you want to put, in these really efficient practices in their marketing, you want to upgrade their CRM, but that business doesn't have the same alignment, then you're going to really struggle to make that relationship work. So I think, early on in the piece, look at your customer profile, but also go on it to a deeper level to think about the communication style and, the operational rhythm of that business, as well as their values. And if that's in alignment with yours, and you might think a year into business, I don't need values, but create some type of value or framework just to align yourself with the customers you're going to work with.
Yeah.
I think it's a good place to start.
No, excellent. That's really good. And I think, over time that may evolve as well, because, in business, as you would know, you're going out there, you're networking, you're meeting a lot of different people. You get you'll get different clients, and you just never know how one person can change the trajectory of your business and the business model itself. So I think that's great advice, but always look at revisiting that, annually,
of course,
to make sure that you're still aligned and you know where your business is going or what it looks like.
Yeah.
Excellent. That's great advice. Is there any, now that you're 5 years into business, have you experienced any other challenges that you've overcome that you can share with the audience?
Yeah, I would say a unique challenge for us, but a lot of businesses, is that remote work and, building a culture and a team. And something that we did when we were in COVID is we used to have monthly drinks. And at the time, we used to have lots of different contractors that worked for us. So we had content writers, we had graphic designers and developers. And so at times we had anywhere between kind of 5 to 15 people working for the business. And then as we started to really niche down to a few categories, then I would bring on a content marketing manager or a full-time designer. But otherwise, we kept the business really lean. And so we'd have monthly drinks, and I'd send out Jimmy brings drinks to everyone. It was, to coordinate, make sure everyone had their ID at the door, or like Uber Eats vouchers. And, I think even now, at any one time, like I could be in a different country, and then some could be in the office, some could be working from home. And something I think that we've just naturally done is just kind of keep that consistency of communication. We use Slack on a daily basis. We have Zoom meetings. The team know that each person's accessible. We also have different statuses. So when you're offline, or if you're in design world, or if you're in a meeting, to change your status on Slack so we know that you're unavailable. And I think these just kind of natural things that we've implemented. We've got a culture where we like to stop. We like to, celebrate the wins and have fun.
Yeah.
So, we'll go to lunch now once a quarter, or when there's an occasion, we'll involve our clients. Most of our clients have been to a Christmas party or a birthday. And it's a bit of an expectation that we have one, just because we like to get everyone together in a room. Yeah.
Important to press the flesh.
Yes, it is. It is.
No, excellent. I think you mentioned something else that's really important, creating a culture, especially where we are now in a sort of hybrid working model where people are working remotely, and you want to give your employees, the biggest asset in your company, the flexibility as well to do all those things. But one thing that is important is the communication. I think, and I'm sure you think the same, that communication is key to any successful relationship. And I think by having those regular meetups, those having Slack, communicating on Slack every day is very important, because if someone's not, I guess, communicating, you don't know what's going on, and things get lost in translation, or they just get lost. And things just start to break down. So I think that's very important to have. Which is good.
Have you had any challenges with your clients in communications? Like, how do you?
Yeah, heaps.
Because we find, we're working with really busy business owners. So, we've built the good culture and communication, but there's also an expectation that our staff are available and, responsive. But, we've struggled at time with clients who are super busy. We need things approved and signed off. Like, do you have the same with your side of clients?
We do. And I think any business, the clients generally, they're going to be very hard to communicate with at times, or for some, because as you say, when you're dealing with busy business owners, the last thing they're probably thinking about is their accounting and business and the numbers, for example, or they're not thinking or focused about their marketing. When you get an email about any of those things, you might be, don't worry about that. Let me worry about the fire I've got to put out, or the operations of the business. So I think it's inherent to a service-based business to experience, I guess, maybe a lack of communication with some of the clients. But I guess the way that I've come, or the way I've tried to deal with it, which I think has improved, is have a dedicated person in the team. So like a client service manager to really go out there and be the one, or be responsible for chasing that client. So really be that bulldog. Some clients have come back and said, man, that person keeps calling me, keeps hounding me, I hate it, but they're getting it done. So I think that's really helped the business, because now I'm less reliant on the technical employees and the staff to actually chase, the information requests, the queries, and pick up the phone, because a lot of their time is spent doing the technical work. And before, there was a lot of time spent on following up. I'm sure you have some clients where you're sending them follow-up emails, things aren't moving, you try calling them, not picking up, and you're like, it's been a month. If they just responded, we could finish the project already, and we could get paid, and we can keep the business moving. So we've definitely experienced that sort of roadblock, but having that client service manager in place now to really be dedicated and responsible for contacting and being that pit bull has really helped. So I think anyone out there looking to chase their clients, get a dedicated pit bull. And I think, that's really all you can do, because at the end of the day, it's up to the client to actually respond. And I think the other tip probably is to, those clients that don't respond in a timely manner, I think you've got to set that expectation from the get-go in the engagement, to say, once again, to communicate, to say, hey, this is the expectation. If you don't, then things are going to get delayed, and it's going to get to a point where we're better off just not working together. Because I'm spending all this time and effort, but you don't even want to help yourself. Have you experienced anything like that as well?
Yeah, I've definitely found, we prepare all our social posts in advance, largely with clients. Like, there's always something that happens ad hoc, like there's an event that they've been to or an award that they've won that comes up. And so we do that same day type of communication. But largely we know what we're trying to post to the clients, because we know what we're trying to build about their business. And if we don't know where they're going to be, we can't preempt that. We can't kind of pre-do that, post and the content behind it. So we definitely say, look, we here are your 4 or 5 or 10 social posts for the month. If we don't have these approved by this date, it's not going to go live. You're not going to have any content to post. So, then we can't overwhelm your audience and post, 3 times a week when you're only posting once a week. So, there's this balance of, we try to be really proactive and all the pre-planning across the socials and, the content. But if we don't have those approvals, or if we're not empowered or instructed that we can approve certain things, then that momentum is lost. And so a big thing in, our space and where we find we get the biggest results for clients is that there's constant momentum and build, and, there's this freedom and flexibility with the ideas, because whilst we have certain retainers with our clients, we don't always work to a rigid structure. So there's an opportunity to jump into Accountants Daily EDM, let's do it. There's this event that we want to go to. Okay, let's put a post around this. Let's do a quick interview for your 10-year anniversary, whatever it may be. We need that freedom and flexibility, but we also need an availability, of course, from the business owner. But we're lucky we have some awesome clients, and they've now, empowered their, probably managers and other people within the business. So whilst we're working one-on-one with directors before, we're probably working, with a 2IC or a secondary manager or director of that business, which then just helps continue that flow of information and approvals needed.
No, that makes sense. You're 5 years into running your business now, and you've got staff members working under you directly. Could you share some tips on how best to manage staff? Because I find that you run a business, that's a business in itself, but then when you start to get staff members, it's a game changer, right? And you're really managing two businesses, because you've got your staff members who, as I said, are the most important assets of your company, but the business and the operation itself. So what advice can you share around managing staff?
Yeah, it's a good question, especially in our line of work, because our product is generated through our team. And, we're not an e-commerce brand. Like, our people are our product, and, we are only as good as our people, really, at the end of the day. Even in terms of the structure of the people still using the technology, it's people at the forefront of our business. Some really good advice I got early on was hire good people and hire them early in your business. And then obviously retain them and keep them. And so I feel like I've tried to do a really conscious effort over the years to make sure our staff are, incentivized well, rewarded, and, they're given a great environment. One of my staff members, she was working from home in COVID, and I went round and I saw her desk and I was like, oh my gosh, all right, new desk, new monitor, new chair. Like, even if it's at home or in the office, just making sure that those environments are good places for them to work. I've got, we do our Woolworths order, and we've got snacks in the office and lolly jars and, wine on a Friday. And that's something that I've had in other businesses, in this, creating this culture around, this kind of meet up, and whether it's an online virtual, drinks in COVID, or now we do, drinks in the office, we might invite clients along as well. So I think a big part is creating a culture that people want to be around. And we give the same advice to our clients of, what are you providing in the office? It doesn't have to be a tangible product or tea or coffee, but it can be, as well as, what are the meetings, and what's the morale like, and the vibe in the office? Do you go out to lunch? Do you celebrate on occasions? There's this, very much, push, everyone's pushing to come back to the office. And then there's, I think it's taking a step back to being a bit more conscious around how the hybrid environment can benefit a business. So around staff, how I manage staff, we have weekly one-on-ones, which I try and keep to most of the time.
Try to, it can be very hard.
They do shuffle around a little bit depending on other meetings and client priorities. But, definitely try and hold myself to account. Availability for other ad hoc requests is something that I'm also trying to, get good at, especially for new staff, to make sure that, they have that accessibility to you. And then we also have quarterly KPIs and those meetings, which often uncover just some really great ideas, or maybe something that's been, bubbling away at the surface they want to raise. An example is I was with one of my staff members, a couple of weeks ago, and one of her KPIs is around the growth of the business. And her being on, the client delivery of the work side, she's not bringing in new business. How can she add to the growth? That was just such a great question. And I said for her, the growth of the business that she can contribute for is staying at the forefront of all the different systems and technologies we should be using, and then her putting those into place. So, it might be we use ClickUp. It might be looking at new features in ClickUp that we can better automate, some of the decisioning and the processes, and streamlining the approvals. It might be a new social scheduling tool or reporting tool. It might be a new video editing tool. And the better we can provide services and the faster we can provide services, the more agile we're going to be as a team, the faster we're going to grow. And so for her to realize like she was, empowered to ask that question. We've also created on Slack a channel called Marketing Talk. So anything we're seeing online, any posts that I see, we'll put in there and we'll explore it as a team if it's something we want to implement. Yeah, just I think, when you set your expectations for your team and set those KPIs, having the weekly one-on-ones and the really regular check-ins to keep, the everyday under control. And then, we have those quarterly catch-ups as well in alignment with the KPIs. But getting them to understand the KPIs, and then if that you feel like that area they're not excelling in, but why not? Are they clear on what they actually need to do? So we had some really good outcomes from that recently.
No, that's really good. I think one thing that you keep saying is culture, and I think that's very important. So it's for anyone out there, creating a great culture to work in is very important. I always say when you hire, you got to hire like they're going to leave you, because the good ones will. I've had some good staff members leave me, and the first one that left me felt like your girlfriend breaking up with you for the first time, because you poured your heart and soul into you invested into that person. The training, the time commitment, everything. You thought, this is amazing. They love working here. They love me as a boss. Maybe not. But you're naive. You're in your own head, and you're thinking that the possibilities are endless, right? And then that day they resign, it just hurts and breaks your heart. Have you experienced anything like that where you've had an employee leave you, and I guess what did you do to improve?
In most of my relationships, I've been the one to end it on a personal side. And business, I probably make the same decisions. Right. I haven't had anyone openly leave the business. It's kind of come to a mutual understanding. I did have one staff member leave, unfortunately, due to some personal circumstances last year. And that was quite an abrupt finish. And so I think from there is, being prepared that at any moment there could be a big gap in your business. And so I was already working some long hours, but oh man, that was that was a really busy time. But those circumstances were outside both of our control, and it was the best decision for her to leave the business at the time. But there was no handover. It was an abrupt stop, and I think, making sure your processes are documented. So the next person came in, right, we need an SOP for everything that we do. Yes. And we had some handbooks and we had some guides, but, we're running through, and, we're working at a fast pace, and, we're growing, and, we're enjoying the work with the clients. We don't love to do our own admin. So
no, it's boring. Who wants to write up their processes? No.
I can tell you we have a lot of processes written and documented now.
Yes.
For that reason is that, training and onboarding, I think, is a big part of being able to be really efficient with that to help scale and grow your business.
Yes.
Because as the owner of the business, even if we have interns through, I want to apply the same amount of dedication to their onboarding as I would any staff member. So there's a lot that can be replaced through a good process or a good training tool. And then, that person's going to be in your business. And even if they're an intern, or if they're, a marketing manager or an account manager or an accountant, in a senior accountant or an entry level, they're still doing the work. They're still client facing, and they're still, there's a risk to your business if that due diligence hasn't been completed correctly. So, going back to, I think when someone leaves a business, sometimes it alerts you to something you have or haven't done. And for us, it was documenting processes.
Yep.
Also logins and access to systems. A lot of our reports were linked to that person's email. And so having to reset certain things was kind of a bit tedious.
Yes,
but we got there, and, we're better
from
off for it. Yeah.
Oh, excellent. No, I agree. I think you don't think about that when you first hire someone. But once they leave, you're like, now I actually have to get back on the tools and do all this. And you're like, let's document it down. So, having a standard operating procedure for for everything really is very important. Excellent. So could you talk to us or share the biggest achievement so far in your 5 years in owning a business?
I think for us, last year we hit a few milestones.
Yeah.
So we moved into our first office in July last year. Thank you. And, we've kind of hot desk. I don't even know how you say that, hot desk. And, we've sublet from other offices, and, we were created in COVID. We weren't allowed to be in an office the first 2 years, really. So for us, I think, having our own space and, putting the sign on the wall, that was a really good thing for us to be able to, mark our position.
Yes.
And that was 4 years in. I've also wanted to always have our own conference and retreat, and we did that in October last year. Took the team away for a couple of nights down the South Coast, and we had strategy day, and taking that time out to do the strategy for clients and re-looking at fresh eyes with what we could come up with the next year for them, as well as ourselves, looking at our own values and our own vision and mission. We redid those, re-looked at some of our branding. So that was a great time. We also had a new staff member join us at the time, and actually, despite having operation like 3 days before, her dad drove her 2 hours down.
Dedication.
She's still with us. So I think, it was a really nice opportunity for this. It was a new chapter for us, and it was a time that we could, I think, all just take a bit of a break and a reset. And then, we had this kind of new evolution, I think, of the team and the business at that time. So for us, definite milestone, getting our own office space, and then also kind of building the team for, the years to come. And just taking that time out, really, I think, for us to reset. Because we help clients do it all the time. We help them run internal conferences and go to big external events and sponsorships and podcasts and speaking.
You're like, crap, I've got to do it for myself too,
I've got to do it for us.
Take your own advice.
Yeah.
Excellent. Now, for anyone looking to get into their own or start their own marketing agency, could you share how you've differentiated yourself to, because there's a lot of other marketing agencies out there. There's a lot of accountants out there. There's a lot of, lawyers, whatever it is. There's a lot of them. But how have you differentiated yourself to the rest of the market?
Yeah, it's a really good question because, like I said, initially we didn't know necessarily who we were trying to work with and what our real value was. And now that we've ascertained we're great at content and digital marketing, that is 100% where we play. Digital marketing then sits across social media, it sits across your website, it also sits across digital brochures. And so we create the strategy around who the business needs to be talking to, how they're best to provide those services, and pulling out all the great pieces of information and benefits around what their product does. So for an example, an accounting firm or a financial advisor or a business advisor, us learning about the type of decisions, like, for example, one accounting firm that we work with and still work with to date, they put a water cooler into the office rather than buying bottles of water every week, maybe save them $100 a month. But that all adds up. That's, cash flow, back in your business. Other things that they've done. So, we really liked hearing about the businesses we work with, how they do things differently. And so we're great at pulling out the nuggets of gold in their business and then marketing them to the right audience. And so the way we do that is we come in as an outsourced CMO, because they often work as an outsourced CFO. We're talking the same language, or even lawyers as well, service-based professionals. You're not just offering a service, you're creating, you're solving these problems for these customers, and you're doing so in all these different interesting ways. And so we're the best people to be able to write that story for them, or actually probably rewrite, because they're an established business. And so we're not helping them necessarily build from scratch, but we're helping them redefine who it is they're trying to target, how that they're offering those services, and then finding more of those people.
Yeah.
And we know it's not necessarily a numbers game by having a lot of leads to your website. We drive leads through SEO, we drive leads through ad campaigns and through other, ways through social and whatnot. But we know that the biggest referrer for them is going to be, their network and their clientele. And so they're the ones we want to be recommunicating with and, right, keeping that kind of close presence with. And it's astounding.
Yeah.
If you're in marketing and you want to be working with clients, focus on what you're doing best. And, say, for example, if it's digital marketing, improving someone's website, focus in on that, focus in on the benefits of what that can bring to that business, because your website's your digital shopfront. It can make or break your brand.
Yes.
It is that first perception of, your colors, your fonts, the way it's laid out tells so much about your business. And so, that's a really critical area, even if you're, a service-based business, getting your website right is important.
I totally agree. We had a refresh recently, and
good to hear.
prior to that, I thought, oh man, it's looking a bit old and grey, and really, for the better word, shit, right? And now it's been refreshed, and I think we had a call recently, and they're like, "Yeah, we saw your website. It just reached out to us, and we decided to call you." So I think, to your point, that's a very important thing to have done right.
Yeah. And look, websites I find is like the biggest black hole for a business. For someone can spend $500 or $50,000 on a website. And the gap is so big between the two around what do they actually need to change. Like, we just moved one of our clients onto WordPress. We did a full refresh of their website. And that's something we haven't done for 18 months, 2 years, because there was no need to do that first and foremost. We've been building personal brands. We've been getting them to events. We've been doing other, activations with partners and running client dinners. That's more important than the website. But now we want to start putting more video content on there. If we were to do it on their old site, it would almost break the site. So now there's a point in time, and I think that's really important. Again, you're saying, what do we do differently, is that we understand what the business needs, the type of marketing they need, when they need it. And, timing, those type of strategies. Okay, we're going to do some email marketing campaigns now to your clients, or we're going to get you out to an event, or we're going to get you to a podcast. If we just went into a business and put them on a podcast, they would be unprepared. There's no media training. What is their pitch? So there is a certain, practice to being able to build up a business and to get them to also understand the investment marketing so that they respond to emails and approve social posts. So I think, what we do very well is that we offer a full digital marketing strategy and consultation to businesses, and we execute it at the time that they need it to help really create impact and ROI in their business. And other people in market, other agencies, you often don't get that same level of executive support, and that, they get access to me as a director. Other agencies you go into, you sold the world, and then you're given a junior account manager and, not to talk to the owner again. So we keep a really great personal relationship with our clients. But then our craft is around the timing really of the strategy and when to do certain things. Amazing.
Definitely setting yourself apart. There's a couple more questions I want to ask you. Sure. So in your first and second year of business, could you share how you, what strategies you put in place to get clients?
Yeah, well, first couple of years was really just referrals from clients. And so it was our close network. I didn't actively market the business at all. One of our clients actually met their son at a dog park, and our dogs got along so well. And then I met his parents. They run a cybersecurity company. And I said, I'm starting this business. They said, come back and talk to us in a month. Ended up working with them for nearly 2 years, and they're 20-year-old business, and helping really kind of structure that marketing framework in their business alongside their sales. They're doing a great job at sales, have a full sales team, but that marketing, needed a bit of love and support. So you never know where you're going to meet someone. I think, again, when you struggle sometimes saying no, because you could help everyone. Like, as an accountant, you could help everyone, but there's certain people you're best to help in a certain way. And so, we were really open. We were also really thankful that our clients are referring us other clients. So we didn't want to almost let them down as providing us that opportunity. And so we just really got that through our referral network and our clientele. We did a little bit of social media, probably some friends from school. I remember actually I had one friend, her husband was starting an air conditioning business, so did his logo. So there's a couple of kind of close groups and friendships. Yeah.
So really it's tapping into your network.
100%.
Really vocalizing that, hey, I'm actually running this business now.
I'm doing this. Yeah.
Exactly.
And even, something we've actually encouraged some of our clients to do, or, even maybe like the smaller businesses and the solo entrepreneurs, is if you've been on social media for 2 years, the chances of someone knowing you 2 years ago and what you exactly do another announcement post. Oh, yeah. Hey, this is who I am. This is, what we're doing. There's a really nice, I think, authentic and genuine intention behind kind of showing back up online to be like, hey guys, for those, it doesn't matter if you've got 500 or 5,000 followers. Hey guys, for those who haven't met yet, or, who are new to, following me here.
That's great.
This is what I'm all about. This is who I help. This is how I can best help them. This is who you can refer to me. I think not being afraid to ask for a referral as well.
Yes.
Not just being on the back foot. And, I don't just mean doing it through LinkedIn, like having a coffee with someone and be like, hey, is there anyone in your network who you might know that needs marketing or accounting? And
Just
so
putting yourself out there and saying, asking the world really, asking you shall receive.
Asking, that's it. But being really clear on your message of who you're trying to help, what's the ask. So yeah, definitely leverage your network. I've probably taken that to a new level now over the last 6 months. I'm finding lots of new networks to operate in.
Yeah.
We've also just started offering a free brand order into one of the communities. We've had about 6 people come back to us, be like, I'd love you to look at my website and my socials and tell me what I'm doing wrong. And that for us has been an exercise I've got the team to help me with. And so it's a great training exercise for the team.
Excellent.
It's also a way for us to, find some new clients and look at some new projects.
No, that's awesome. I mean, look, in the first couple of years, if you don't have that budget to market, really, it's
Word of mouth.
Yeah, that's right. The best form of marketing is hard work. If you're doing a good job for that particular person, they're gonna, be an advocate for you.
Yeah.
So awesome. Before we wrap up, you're 5 years into business now. You've got staff members. You're going to different conferences. We just spoke earlier, you go on holidays. How has getting into business, I guess, changed your life in terms of, the financial side of things, the time side of things, as well as then, your mind? Are you more stressed? Are you less stressed? Speak to us a little bit about those 3 freedoms.
Well, I think as a business owner, you never switch off. You're constantly exploring new ideas, or there's an email you didn't get back to, which is, keeping you up at night.
Making you anxious.
Making you a bit anxious.
Yeah.
So, yeah, probably, the mind ticks over a lot more as a business owner. I honestly wouldn't know what it would be like to going back and working for someone full time. In saying that, I did actually basically work on a bit of a secondment last year and sat in a business a day a week. I love being in a big business and walking in and, hey, Gary, hey, saying hi to, hey, Jimmy, saying hi to everyone.
Bit of nostalgia as well, right?
Yeah, we've got our own office now, so we can also do the same thing. And so I think the way we work with clients being so intimate, we do get that exposure working with, big corporations. And so I don't necessarily miss that because I do get still exposure to it. What else it's like being a business owner? Look, the flexibility is really nice to be, some days you wake up and you're like, okay, I'm going to start really early today, or I'm going to go to this lunch, which never finishes. They happen less so frequently now, but definitely in the early days, spending that time and just meeting and learning from so many people, I think is the biggest thing. I've really tried to find some good mentors. I've, done some business coaching, and just now I've got some really great friends. One of them is a recruiter based down in Melbourne. He's had me on his podcast, and, we can both call each other up and be like, what's happening this week? And so I think it's really nice as a business owner. It can be really lonely, and, you can have all these thoughts in your head and not necessarily have that person or network to be able to be vulnerable with. And so finding some good mentors and finding different mentors, you need different people at different stages of your business.
That's right.
Get a good accountant.
Yeah.
Get a good advisor, because, there's some crucial mistakes you could make in, forecasting and budgeting. I know we've done it before. I thought we were doing a certain budget and then, kind of did a bit of a misforecast, and I was like, okay, right, we actually need to be here. And so staying on top of your numbers, which again keeps you up at night.
There's a lot of things, yeah.
There's a lot of things, but I wouldn't change it for the world.
Yeah.
Right now, I think, given the travel that I want to do and, the team that I have complete faith and trust in my team. I also am always across everything, and I just, I do love the work that we do. So yeah, very motivated.
Excellent.
Wouldn't change it. But I think it's really important to put some personal boundaries in place, and to, have that date night with your partner, and to set that personal time is probably something I haven't done so well at over the last few years.
Now it's time.
Time. Yeah.
Go on holidays, or maybe more holidays, and
Yeah. And I think, maybe the fear is that, client's going to leave you, or that, if you don't trust your team, that something's going to happen. And so I've had to work really hard to make sure that we've got the right foundations, the right people in the business, so that it can just run without me.
Just let go a little bit, Emma.
I know.
You've built it. You've put those things in place. Trust yourself, right?
It is hard. Trust in the process, trust in the team, and set those boundaries for yourself.
Excellent.
So that you can live that, financial freedom and that,
The life that you want.
Yeah, live the life that you want.
Excellent. Well, Emma, thank you for jumping on the podcast and sharing your experience. It's been amazing. You're a fountain of knowledge, and I hope
thank you.
The viewers out there get something and they can act on it.
Yeah.
So if you're about to begin your business journey or you're currently going through your business journey, tune into future episodes so that you can learn more and find a supportive community. Otherwise, follow me on LinkedIn for more.